Testing again. Can you hear me?
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'll call on Councillor Longo to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandurunk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. I ask that we amend the agenda for the following. Move item 9.1, the presentation from Emergency Management Group Incorporated respecting the fire master plan to take place after closed session. Move item 12.4, report FES 1-2025 respecting community risk assessment and fire master plan to after closed session immediately after the presentation item 9.1. Can I get a mover and seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor D'Angela and Councillor O'Hare. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the open and closed session council minutes from December 10th, 2024? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's report. I would like to welcome everyone back to our first council meeting of 2025 and wish everyone a happy, healthy new year. We have a very busy year ahead. On December 10th, Manoj Dawaria, Jeff Holman, and I met with the new president and CEO of the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation, Jim Athensayu, and Government and Community Relations Officer Sam Payne. We discussed issues along the Welland Canal as they relate to the city of Thorold and their future plans. And one thing I see that's already ongoing, they're working on the dock wall at the Resolute property, which will be great for the future of that property. On December 12th, I was joined by Councillors Decker, O'Hare, Didavitas, Sentence, Regional Councillor Whalen, city staff, and local contractors at the grand opening and plaque unveiling of the new Development Services Office at 8 Carlton Street South, upstairs from the 50 Plus Center. Thank you to Jason Simpson and Morgan Casciani for conducting the office tours of the new facilities, which will be the new home of our planning and building department. Thank you, Mountain View Building Group, as well as the subcontractors involved that delivered another great facility to the city of Thorold that we can be proud of. On Friday, December 13th, the Great Holiday Food Drive bus stopped at Foodland in the Pine Plaza. I was joined by Councillors Decker, O'Hare, city staff, Tessa Bonacor, Carrie Gruhl, and Natalie Stickles, Foodland owner Todd Marr, Community Care Thorold manager Maxine Hutchins, and their volunteers. This annual food drive is so important heading into the holiday season, and our community once again stepped up and helped make this event very successful. On December 16th, Councillor O'Hare and I attended the 128th Thorold Flying Dragon Squadron Royal Canadian Air Cadets annual mess dinner held at the Thorold Legion, as they celebrated another year with a growing squadron membership that is now 66 strong. We recognize their continued relationship with the city of Thorold as well as their proud tradition of service. This past year, they devoted countless hours of service in our community, and we thank them. On December 18th, I was joined by Councillors Decker, Sentence, and O'Hare at the annual staff holiday potluck lunch, which was held in the council chambers here at City Hall. It was great to see staff from various departments enjoy lunch with them and thank them for their contribution to the city of Thorold. On December 19th, I was joined by Councillor Sentence at the Northland Power Facility in Thorold South for check presentations to Community Care St. Catharines Thorold and Thorold Community Activities Group. Each organization received a $5,000 donation from Northland Power. Sahid Khan, Plant General Manager, made the check presentations to Community Care Thorold Manager Maxine Hutchings and TCAG Executive Director Megan Gilchrist and Board Member Cher Foster. Once again, this is an example of City of Thorold businesses stepping up to help our community organizations. Northland Power, on behalf of City Council, we thank you. On January 10th, Councillor Sentence represented City Council at the 52nd Annual Great Lakes Pilot Dinner held at the Stone Mill Inn in St. Catharines. They provide an essential service throughout the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway System and very important close to home here along the Welland Canal. This year, Bell Let's Talk Day is putting a spotlight on the growing youth mental health crisis in Canada. Wednesday, January 22nd, will focus on youth mental health and will include a text to donate campaign with 100% of the funds raised going to 6 youth mental health organizations. Congratulations to our holiday contest winners. Carol Ann Skulge of 49 Richmond Street for her festive holiday display, Carter Alguire and Taylor Ashley, both 9 years of age, having won our annual coloring contest. Congratulations to our winners as well as all the contestants. The 2025 summer recruitment, student recruitment is now open. The City of Thorold is currently accepting applications for a variety of summer positions. Please visit the city website, thorold.ca, for more information. In closing, on behalf of City Council and staff, our heartfelt condolences, thoughts, and prayers go out to the family and friends of Frances Elizabeth Pollan, who passed away on January 4th, 2025. Elizabeth dedicated over 38 years to her role as a crossing guard with the City of Thorold, where she was known for her commitment to ensuring the safety of children in our community. Also, it is great sadness that we announced the passing of Glennis Watson at the age of 72 this past December. Glennis worked for the city as a crossing guard since 2012. A longtime proud Thorold resident, Glennis ensured that the streets of her community were safe to cross for students on their way to school. And again, we send our heartfelt condolences, thoughts, and prayers to the family of Glennis Watson as well. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. The presentation's been put to after closed sessions. There's no delegation. Items of consent. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the items of consent 11.1 through 11.4? I got Councillor Dedivides and Councillor Decker. Is there anyone that wants to discuss or pull an item? Go ahead, Councillor Dedivides.
11.1.
Yeah.
I brought this to the Park and Rec meeting for QR codes in the parks. It has a lot of benefits, site amenities, and hours operation, reported concern, rental opportunities for the parks, weddings. It has a lot of benefits, and with so many new people living in Thorold, this could be a great way for them to learn about the parks. But this also I want to see implemented in historical buildings, so when they hit the QR code, they can see the history, or maybe we can, one municipality, they have pictures of the past and present. So when they're at a particular building, they hit that QR code, they can see how a Lower Secret House used to look like before, and they can see what it looks like today when they're standing in front of it. And QR codes are a very cheap and effective way of getting people involved and utilizing our parks and our historical properties.
So would you like to add to that resolution an amendment to include historical property?
Yes, basically all signs should have a QR code so they can interact with the city. Maybe we can even ask them to join a mailing list or get some information. A lot of new people that come to Thorold, they don't have no clue that one park, oh, there's other parks, or historical buildings, they don't know, like even for Beaver Dams Park, they can see it was a canal that used to go through there. So I think it's an important part, and it's not that expensive to do, and that's why they're everywhere, I think.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder to add, expand that? I got Counselor Sentence. Does anyone want to have any further discussion regarding that item? Go ahead, Counselor DeAngelo.
Just curious, will that report be coming to us during the budget process?
Good question. I don't know if we'd get it back that quick. Mark, can you comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly do our best to get that to you as quickly as possible. We have been looking into the cost of the existing QR codes, the one that is at the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. I believe one of the QR codes that Councillor Didavitis is speaking about is Life's QR, which is widely used in cemeteries and also at historical buildings. So we have a good sense of what that will cost. We'll do our best. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I just, thank you for that response. It's just that if we're gonna do the budget, go through that process, I don't wanna be discussing this later if we're trying to add more stuff onto it. So I think it should be part of the discussions, even if the numbers are just general or.
Yeah, and even if it's something that we could do, you know, over a period of time.
Yeah,
as well.
phasing it in, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, anyone else on the QR codes? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I just want to support this idea. I think it's great. Just about everyone's familiar with QR codes these days, and it's an easy way to get a lot more information to the person interested in the particular spot that they're looking up. So, wonderful idea. I support this completely.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we have that. Mover and a seconder for all the items. This one's being amended so that it widen the scope of that. So we'll vote on this one separate. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So item 2 through 4, is there anyone that wants to speak to any of those items? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Items for consideration. CLC 2, 2025, request from the BIA to appoint a nominee to fill the vacant at-large position. I'm going to turn this over, if you want to explain whether we need to deal with this in camera or don't, because
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as we've done in the past, there's only really a need to discuss this in closed session if council has questions or comments that would relate to personal information of the individual.
okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder for this? It's, Councillor Longo and Councillor Didavitis. Are we good with that? Anybody that needs to go into closed session regarding this item? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. CLK 1, 2025, 2026 municipal and school board election voting methods. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Decker and Councillor O'Hare. And the report's now on the floor and open for discussion. I know, I'm just reading it on that. Okay, go ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm not a fan of internet voting, and I just want to go through a few reasons why. There's security vulnerabilities. Internet voting systems are susceptible to hacking, cyber attacks. Malicious actors could cut off the ability to vote online, manipulate results, compromise the integrity of an election, or steal sensitive voter information from thousands of voters, potentially without detection. A recent example occurred in Ecuador where cyber attacks that appeared to be routed through multiple countries disrupted the online voting system, preventing many registered voters abroad from casting their vote. Despite the advancements in cybersecurity, no system is entirely immune to threats, and government elections are particularly tempting targets for would-be disruptors. Online banking and shopping are susceptible to hacks and data leaks, which are often well publicized. When breaches and fraud happen, financial institutions typically absorb the cost and repay the consumer and have insurance to help cover the cost. Unlike online banking, voting requires a more complex process to ensure votes are kept private and secure while accurately verifying voters' identities. With voting, breaches mean that hackers can access crucial information that would otherwise have been kept private. If there's any issue, it's not as simple as reimbursing people. If there's a significant hack or error to be certain of the outcome, the election must be rerun. Secondly, reliability concerns. In a system failure similar to Ecuador's, a limited scope of internet voting went down on election day, leaving approximately 30,000 voters unable to cast their ballots. Basically, I could go on and on. I wrote a whole bunch of stuff, but I honestly think, I know for a fact that I saw 3 voting cards last election that were for people that had died years ago, that had passed away. God bless them. One, I knew the lady, 25 years ago she passed away. And her kids got a voting card that she could go vote online. So I think I know it's more work for staff, but just the integrity of it is I don't have confidence in it. And I think security can be breached, and I want people to feel confident in that their vote's gonna count and it's all legit. So I will support, I support option 1, or option 2, but definitely not option 3. I don't think we should delve into the online support for the reasons I said. And there were other stories that I heard, but second and third hand, as to the impropriety of voting cards. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I got Councillor Hanley. You're up next, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to concur with Councillor DeRose. One of the things too, I didn't see it in my folder, but the report from 5 years ago, 2000 or 4 years ago, 2021, if you look at it, it's just a duplicative report that was brought forward for the 2022 elections and written by Joanne Hyde, as it says here. There's no statistics there in regards to the 2022 elections and how many people used online voting. We had a significant issue with thousands of duplicate ballots being sent out to individuals. And the ability to vote for somebody online is basically simple. You don't need their social insurance number or whatever. I believe all it came down to is an address, a name, and a date of birth. And improprieties, for sure, last election, I was told by an individual, like Councilor Drode says, it's second hand, third hand, but where individuals had received voting cards from other members of their family who in fact didn't live in Thorold any longer, but because they knew the pertinent information, they could and I don't know if they did, but could cast a ballot for an individual who no longer lived in the residence. Also, with us being in a university city, the complexity of how many ballots may be mailed within the municipality of the city of Thorold of students that were former students of Brock University and no longer go to Brock and no longer are a resident in the city of Thorold. And again, the information you need to vote in regards to that is very simple. It's not complicated, and many people could actually. And I was reading here about a gentleman, if I could just quote, his name is Alexander Essex. He's a Western University Associate Professor of Software Engineering, and Essex research focuses the cybersecurity of online elections. He says that as long as private companies such as Dominion, and I believe that's who we used last time, are in charge of online voting, our democracy is in jeopardy. Right now, if a company was to behave fraudulently and declare a fake result, how would you find out, says Essex. We are trusting these companies produce these results. Trusting a third-party private company is not appropriate for an election result. Throughout his research, he states he has tried to find out how different online voting companies set up their systems, but most of them are tight-lipped. Online voting is a very secretive world, and the companies will not participate in the cybersecurity research because they have nothing to gain and a kind of everything to lose, he says. While it's not uncommon for a company to protect its trade secrets, it's a little more complicated when a democratic election is on the line. The company runs a website, they run the server, they produce the results. That is reported to the public by the city clerk, and that is reported to the clerk by the company. The vendor is running the election. So you have to trust the vendor to produce the right results. Another worry stated is that it's often stated in relation to online voting is the secrecy of the ballot, as Councilor Thorold stated. To vote online, residents are sent voter ID and PIN codes to their home addresses. That information allows them to log in. The process is supposed to be anonymous and safe, but Essex says that it's often not the case. He said he found evidence that people's identities were re-identifiable. He said there's nothing fundamentally that we can see from stopping a company to having a way to recover your identity and vote at the same time. Essex points out that in today's world of online conspiracies and misinformation, there needs to be a verifiable way to ensure election results are correct. Sooner or later, there's going to be some disagreeable person, he says. Well, I don't lose. I didn't lose. What are you going to show them? What these cities do to convince these candidates that really did lose? There has to be some pathway to deal with these losing candidates. He says it's not that we don't trust the company. It's not that we don't trust the clerk. It's not that we don't trust everything in between. It's that it's an election. We shouldn't have to trust people. It should be a show me, not a tell me proposition. So that's, I just wanted to say, and that's from gentleman, Western University, Mr. Essex. There, as I said, I just look at his last name again, but I got it from Western University. Alexander Essex, and he's an associate professor at Western University and is an expert in cybersecurity. So I'm taking the expert's side and saying, as Councilor Thorold's option 1 or option 2.
Thank you, Councilor Hanley. Councilor Dedivides.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not for online voting also. It undermines the trust, and that's the big reason for me. It doesn't provide enough benefit to justify the cost of the implication, so I'm not for the online voting also.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Councilor Sentence.
Well, I'll be the same as I was 5 years ago. I think it's the way of the future. I had nobody tell me there was any problems or reported any problems. I had many people come up to me and say thank you. I can't imagine how low our turnout would have been if we didn't have it. So I have no fears of this or what could be going on behind the scenes. I think it was done well. I will support internet voting from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councilor Decker.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree. I'd support the motion. I had a lot of people come to me and say that they were happy that they had different options for voting. We had more people that voted because of the online option. It was safe, it was easy. I have my aunt did it, she's 85 years old, and, you know, it was easier for her to do it at home than to come out to the polls and vote, and a lot of people felt the same way, so I'll support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is 2025. You know, the internet is being used to such an extent. Young people, older people, everyone gets on the internet now. It's a convenience. We can't deny people accessibility who are perhaps not able to get out to the polling booths. You know, without going down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, we have to trust the integrity and the honesty of the vendors who are providing us with the materials that we use. So I fully support online voting as well as in person. I would like to add one thing. I know I heard last election that there was no advance poll, and I'm going to request or perhaps put an amendment that we have a single day of an advance poll, so people who do want to have that option to put a ballot into the box but are not able to make it on election day may have a second option.
Yeah, there was advance polls, but I'll...
There were?
Yeah, through you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, there were, I believe, 11 days of advanced polls, and the clerk ultimately makes the determination on the number of advanced polling days, but feedback is appreciated, and
Was that internet advance poll, or was that in person?
it was Justin, if you wanted to cover the number of days for the.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. Through the mayor, it was internet help centers is what it was last time, not in-person paper voting.
Right.
But in the report, we did indicate that we are going to look to add at least some in-person paper voting for this
Great.
next time
Okay,
around.
that's
with
all I
internet
asked.
voting.
Yep, thank you.
Councillor D'Angelo, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple comments, but I just want to sort of piggyback on that. And the clerk mentioned, so that's not the role of council to determine how many advance polls and if they're paper polls or internet help. That's going to be the clerks. Because there was a bit of disappointment last election. I think council should have some say on that in terms of what's being established. I'd like to see more because that's what I heard out there. So I'd rather, and people look at council as, well, you're the ones that set where the polls are and set, but we don't, if I'm hearing this correctly. But I think it's important that once that plan's in place, it does come back to council, because there might be an addition or an adjustment that needs to be made. You know, ultimately, we're responsible in how the city runs, and if we can't get people out to vote for various reasons, that would be very disappointing. So I know that doesn't say that in here, but is that something that is going to come back, Mr. Mayor, or is that something that?
That's a question I'll ask the clerk. Clerk, can you come back and just let us know what you have come up with?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly keep council up to date.
Okay, because to me, that's very important, because we have a distribution of populations throughout our community, and advanced polling, like they used to have one at Club Castigliano. Now that's Club the Ovation Club. Like, there wasn't one there, so no one in that area had a place to vote, so it made it more difficult. I'm okay with sort of the hybrid model where you can vote in person or you can do it online. But when it comes to the online stuff, and again, this is because I experienced this myself. I did get a voting ballot for my dad who had passed away, but there's also duplicate ones that my in-laws gave me a duplicate one. So I guess my question to staff is, how are we going to make sure that that doesn't happen this time around in terms of duplicate ballots going out and removing people that are no longer with us, unfortunately?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to address that comment, and then there was reference also earlier to comments of issues with ballots being sent out. So that has to do more with the voters list, which would be separate from whether you decide to pursue an alternative voting method. In the past, it was MPAC who was responsible for compiling lists, and without getting too much into details, there were some who brought concerns about that. It's transitioned over for the municipal election to Ontario. The province will be taking it on. And the hope is that with perhaps a provincial election as well, that the lists will hopefully be improved as well.
There should be a couple of elections before the next municipal election.
But yeah, Elections Ontario specifically, yeah.
Okay, so just so I'm just understanding, so Elections Ontario will be producing the list that the city will be using as a voters list?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. For the school board election, MPAC still currently takes that on, but for the municipal election, it's Elections Ontario, yes.
Okay, well, that's good news, because again, the previous one was a little faulty, so, and I'm not putting any blame on the city. It's whatever list you get is the list you get, right? But yeah, so if those are corrected, because that was one of my concerns with the internet voting, was making sure there's no duplications and no individuals that shouldn't be on the list. Just a question, if anyone can remember, like, was there any issues with people that voted online and then went to the polls to actually paper vote and say that someone voted for them already? Was there any indication of that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of any, and I can tell you that obviously there's different vendors out there, but their method of removing a person from the list once they've voted electronically is instantaneous. So, you know, someone, for example, sitting in the parking lot voting on their phone in the car and then trying to get in, their name would be removed once they voted electronically instantly.
Okay, but my question is, did anyone go to the polls and say, I didn't vote online, so I can't vote now, so we didn't have that issue at all, the last election?
I'm not aware of those concerns. Certainly weren't brought to my attention.
Okay.
Councillor.
The other thing regarding we have, I believe, 7 polling stations in last election, and I did talk to the clerk after the election, that he was gonna get information regarding how each poll voted, because all we had was a summation of all our votes. And that was something that I wanted to see, because that also indicates that would have been helpful in determining where people are voting, if you need the advanced poll, if you need a paper poll. That information wasn't brought forward. I don't know, is that something the city's still gonna try to get from the vendor? In terms, because when you go to a book, we have, as one of the councilors running, they give you a book with the 7 polling stations in it, with all the names in there, but there was no way of matching how poll 1 voted. It was just a summation of how the whole city voted.
Justin, do you have any information regarding that?
Yes, through the mayor to council, we do have the information of how many people voted at each poll. We do have that information for the in-person voting, and already coming up with ideas of polls that we may want to change due to low turnout and some of the areas that had very high turnout to keep.
Okay, so is that public information, the results, not the individuals that voted, but the results of each polling station?
Justin, do you want to?
We do have online right now is just the general results, but anyone can get those results of the poll by poll, and that's all knowledge. If they want to, they can contact the clerk's department for that.
Okay.
Councillor Longo.
That was it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of my questions were asked just there by Councillor D'Angela. I'll just state, I'm not too concerned about the conspiracy part, but I'm more concerned about the integrity of our elections. And some of the answers from the clerk, I just want to maybe get some more clarification there. My big concern last time around was the duplicate ballots or ballots sent out to households for some people. I saw some for ballots sent to deceased people. And we're told that this is going to be straightened out by the provincial government somehow. How confident are we that it will be done in time?
Go ahead, Nicholas.
I'm fairly confident that those issues will be resolved. Justin can also provide some information, but we're able to update the voters list based on, for example, death certificates that we receive as part of the clerk's department's functions. We receive death certificates in order to process burial permits, and so we're able to update that if we find out that a resident has passed on. So we do have a bit of control there as well.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Okay. Again, it doesn't give me great confidence here, because that's if somebody registers through the city somehow. Like, how do you know, for example, if somebody's son or daughter's moved out of the city? And again, these are things that concern me, because when people question the integrity of the process, we can run into problems. So again, I think we need to make sure this is airtight. It can't be, well, we think it's okay and we hope it's okay. It needs to be okay. And I guess my final question, I'm just sitting here thinking, I heard rumors there may be a federal election coming up soon. I don't know if that's true or not.
We don't know.
But are we allowed to vote online for federal and provincial elections? Can anybody answer that?
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, through the mayor, currently the federal and provincial do not have internet voting, but they do have vote by mail on demand.
Okay. Does anybody know why they don't have internet voting? Is there a reason why municipalities can handle this task, but a federal government or provincial government can't? And I don't expect an answer, sorry. It was a kind of rhetorical question. I guess we're the guinea pigs, so that's it.
Anyone else have any comments?
Counselor,
One sec,
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Hanley, you've already spoken. I'm just seeing first if there's anyone else that has. Okay, Counselor Hanley, go ahead.
I just wanted to make some clarifications. It was noted here that the actual percentage of people voting in the last municipal election in Thorold increased. The fact of the matter is there was 11.39% less voters in the last election. I'd gotten that statistic earlier. In 2018, 36.0% of the population, or 5,219 people voted. In 2022, we had internet voting or online voting. It decreased by 11.39% to 24.68%, and only 4,508 people voted. So we, in fact, did not increase the voter turnout with online voting last election. It decreased by 11.39%. I just wanted to make that clarification, and that's from the city's own website.
Thank you, Counselor Hanley. Did you want to comment on that?
Just
Because how much was online?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe the report says that there was an increase in participation from 2018 to 2022.
No, I didn't. I wasn't talking about you, Counselor. I'll say then Counselor Decker had stated that actually the amount of people, because we had online voting the last election, the voter turnout increased. I just wanted to correct that, and that's from the city's own website to state that it in fact didn't increase. That had nothing to do with your report, Nicholas.
Thank you, Counselor, but I don't know, what was the percentage of online voting?
So just 40.7% of the votes cast by Thorold's eligible electors was by internet, and then 59 and change was in person. Yeah, so I acknowledge that voter turnout was not very high. If you look across the province, going back even to 1982, when around 50% of Ontario electors voted in the municipal election, it was down to less than a third in 2022. So it's, you know, we'll continue to spread the word.
But all 12 municipalities, we had the
Anyway,
worst voter
okay,
turnout.
Counselor Hanley. Okay, we've gotten that. Any further discussion? Okay, so we have this on the floor. Do you want to vote on number 2 separately? So we'll vote on 1, 3, and 4, and then we'll vote on 2 separately because there's a difference of opinion on that. So, are you good with that?
I think we should just vote on this as it is.
Well, because the contentious point is number 2, not the rest of it.
Well, then if it doesn't
Then-
pass, then you can.
Go ahead, Counselor Sentence.
Well, in my opinion, we should be voting on this. If you're against it, then you're against it. If you're for it, you're for it. No?
Do you want us to vote on it as a whole, or
Yes.
Okay.
And then if it doesn't pass.
if you're not happy with it, you can vote against it? Okay. Then, okay. So the report's on the floor, 1 through 4. Go ahead, Counselor DeAnge.
Well, just clarity on number 2. Is it meaning that council approved the use of the internet voting as an alternate voting method for 2026? So that's the method we're using? We're not, like, is it option 1 or is it option 2?
For clarity through you, Mr. Mayor, the in-person voting will take place. That's the city's recommendation. Internet is an alternative, so it's, you have both, it's an add-on. It's, both options are available,
Okay,
and that's what the report's recommending.
I know, but it doesn't really say that in the motion, unless I'm misreading something?
It's additional instead of what,
Uh,
the word additional.
Alternative voting method is directly from the legislation. That's why the term is used.
Okay, but it doesn't say anything in there that it's voting in person. Like, am I just not reading that? I'm
Council
read-
only has to approve alternative voting methods. They don't need to approve the
Okay,
in-person.
so we're gonna have in-person, and then we're just adding the alternative voting, and we're gonna do it
That's-
similar to what we did last time.
The exact same as 2022.
Yeah,
yes.
I just, if someone in the public's reading that, they don't see that there. That's my point. There's no clarity there. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Longo, and then Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I vote, I just want to make sure I understand what we're doing. If we're going to vote this as a whole, and this loses, does that mean that we don't have an election? But I'm confused here, because,
No, I'll let the clerk explain.
but if we say no because we don't want internet voting, we also don't want vote counting machines? That's what we're saying. And we're gonna say that we,
Okay.
don't want to work with
If
other
you want to separate the
municipalities.
vote, that's
That's
fine.
what I think, my own opinion, and the clerk's agreed with me now, is we should vote on 1, 3, and 4. And then we'll vote on 2 separately. That's correct. Okay? That, Justin, did you want to comment on that?
Just for clarity, number 3 only will happen if number 2 passes. So if number 2 internet voting doesn't happen, then advanced polling and proxy voting automatically happens. So my recommendation is 1 and 4 you vote on, and then 2 and 3 can go together.
Well, advanced voting and proxy voting, we use now. We've used before.
Yeah,
So that's not internet voting.
No, if you have no alternative option, those automatically have to happen. But if you do have an alternative voting option, then you have to add those on. But it can be voted as number 2, it's fine.
Go ahead, Council.
Mr. Mayor, I'm confused. Number 3 is already, like you said, we're going to have in-person voting. Well, number 3 should fall in line with that. I don't see number 3's connection to number 2.
So
Number
we're
two
gonna
is a
vote,
whole-
we're gonna
totally
vote on
separate
1,
thing.
3, and 4, okay?
Right. Yeah, that's- okay,
And
yes.
then we're gonna vote on 2
I
separately.
agree with that.
Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion?
For clarity, though, the mover and seconder was the report on the whole. So can we get clarity here? Mover and seconder is for 1, 3, and 4?
That's-
Just to confirm?
Mover and seconder.
Mover and seconder are good with that?
Go back to who's the mover and the seconder.
Counselor Decker and Counselor O'Hare.
It's for 1, 3, and 4, and then we'll get a separate mover and a seconder for number 2. And then we'll vote on it as a whole. Okay, so we're voting on 1, 3, and 4. A mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, number 2. I can use the same mover and seconder is good? Okay, we're gonna use the same mover and seconder. On number 2, we're voting on number 2. All those in favor? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Yep,
Thank you.
recorded votes in order. Go ahead,
Okay,
Nicholas.
so the mover was Counselor Decker, so we'll,
Me first? I'm in favor.
Against.
Approve.
Counselor Haley's had his hand up from the onset of this, so I don't know if it's in relevance to these. Oh, he's taking it down?
No, he was,
Okay,
yeah, he
all
didn't
right.
remove his
Yeah,
hand.
I'm in favor.
Favor.
Against.
oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, Counselor Hanley against?
Against?
Yeah, I'm against internet voting.
Thank you. Councillor Longo,
I'm against.
and I'm for.
Okay, so that passes?
Okay, so now we vote on it as a whole, or is that
No, there were 2 separate.
2 separate votes? You're good with that? They were both the same mover and a second. Okay. That is, now we're moving on to DS 2025 Planning Services Consultant Delegated Authority. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? Counselor Decker and Counselor Ditavitas. And that'll be up on the floor, and Jason, our Director of Development Services, is here to answer any questions to Jason Simpson. Are there any questions for Jason Simpson? Go ahead, Counselor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. Jason, does this mean that we'll just keep the flow going with the planning representatives that the city has been working with up to this point, or is this something that we have to repost and search?
Excuse me. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor O'Hare. Our hope is to be able to continue with service delivery with the consultant we have used in the past. However, pending council's decision tonight, we will need to enter into discussions with that consultant first to be able to determine that once and for all.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sentence, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. When we get a consultant, do we pay them per job, or are they on retainer? How does that work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we would typically enter into an agreement of some sort with them, and it's paid by the hour. So
Okay.
based upon however much work we give them, they charge us back per hour of work that they perform for that.
Okay, thank you. I've said in the past, just as a side note, I mean, if we're doing that and we got to catch up, let's catch up with these guys if it takes another consultant agency. But anyways, that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to speak to the report? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Jason. I'm just wondering, so they submit how many hours they work. Is there anybody overseeing them, or is it just?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the consultants are regularly managed by staff as to what's occurring, what work they're performing, how long it's taken them, what the expectations are. All that is managed on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Didavinas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm for this. It's very important we keep this planning department moving. We can't afford any more backlog. It's just gonna get worse and worse. Jason, do you know why are we having people at the planning division? Like, why is it vacant? Do you know what's causing this problem?
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly provide my own input on it, but I suspect that would probably be more of an in-camera discussion versus an open session discussion.
Okay. Okay.
You good with that? Anyone else?
I just have one more question. Is it possible that our salaries are not fully aligned with those offered in other similar roles in municipalities? And do you think our CEO should investigate to see that we're paying people what they should be paying in your department, so we can address this problem and not keep on going down this road with consultants?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe that concern is isolated to the Development Services Department. That is something that has been raised as a concern across the organization. Would it be worth investigating? Certainly, that's at council's discretion. I don't imagine it would hurt to get at least information about it, and then council could make a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, and we're going to do 12-4 after closed session, and PWCS 12025 Canada Day event update. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the report? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. And the report's on the screen. Is there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Doro.
I just wanted to commend Jacob Tedesco on doing an outstanding. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to compliment Jacob Tedesco on his role last year and the great couple of days we had. And so we've hired an excellent, young, enthusiastic events coordinator that I've spoken to on numerous occasions, and he stated that he's very confident he could handle everything internally without outsourcing any of his responsibilities in regard to Canada Day. So I wanted to make a friendly amendment to the report. The report's excellent, written by Jacob. I just want to make a friendly amendment.
Well, I don't think the report speaks to that, but Jacob, it's just a report on the financials. But what amendment did you want to make?
Just that staff be directed to carry out production work and services internally rather than outsourcing to a third party. That's it.
Are we looking at doing that? Jacob, do you wanna go up to the hot seat? So, it's, the question, and, you wanna ask it again now, while he's there, and I know where you're coming from, but I wanted him to answer, like, what, you know.
Yeah, so Jacob, what I'm asking, can you handle internally, without outsourcing, all the responsibilities to have a successful candidate day like you did in the past?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I am confident that internally, myself and working with staff and our working group that's been established, we could successfully book all the bands and put on an excellent event for Canada Day.
Mr. Mayor, the reason I'm stating this is because there's $9,800 that we outsource that I don't think we need to. I think now we've got a event coordinator, we've hired one. Let's utilize his capabilities, which I think are very strong, and let that $9,800 go into making it let him have more options or resources to do his duty.
Basically, is that just, can we do that as staff direction, or how do you wanna handle that? Because the report's just on the financials from last year.
It's also, there's an appendix about proposed for
Costs this year.
25, right? So,
Yeah.
can be done as an amendment if Councilor Rose wants to make that, or if it wants to be, if it's a friendly amendment, it can be added.
I had a mover and a seconder. Who was the mover and seconder?
Decker, Councilor Dieterle.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Sorry, Sentence and Decker.
Sentence and Decker, and we've had an answer regarding the issue brought up by Councillor DeRose. I just don't want to tie anyone's hands. If you need to get extra help on doing something, as long as it's within the budget, I don't want us to, to handcuff ourselves here. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just for clarity for myself, there's a proposed budget in here. So by accepting this report tonight, are we accepting that proposed budget? Or is this going to be coming back at budget for discussion? I have questions on it, but if we're just doing this.
There is we're doing, what, how much, 25,000 pre-budget approval.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that because when you're running events, you don't wait till the event to start running the event.
And the other part is that a lot of that money that you see there wasn't how much we actually spent. A lot of that was sponsorship money that came.
Yeah, you're not answering my question, Mr. Mayor. Are we going with this proposed budget tonight, or is it going to be further discussion at budget meetings regarding the proposed budget? I have no problem with the 25,000. I have no problem with the event. But, like, I have a question here. Family entertainment went up $10,000. So I'd like a little bit of clarity of why the family entertainment. Like, do you want that question tonight, or do you want that during the budget deliberations? Because I don't want to pre-approve this whole budget and then go to budget, pre-approve this budget for this event, and then go to budget later and say, okay, well, it's going to be a tough budget year, and I don't want this to have already approval tonight before we even get to budget. I have no problem giving the 25,000 to get the event going. I have no problem with the event, but there's questions that need to be asked.
But some of that 25 may go to securing those people, so ask the question, because then these people are all people they're going out to look at securing for that time period.
Okay, well then, I guess, Mr. Mayor, through you, if you can, Mr. Tedesco, maybe if you could explain why there's an additional $10,000 in the section regarding family entertainment? Because, and let me just sort of, the reason I'm asking is last time it was on a weekend, so it was Saturday, Sunday, I believe Monday. This year it's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Monday's a working day, so.
Not for everybody, though, but they're starting later on Monday. 4 o'clock. I think that's the
Well,
goal.
but family entertainment's gone up $10,000, so I just need a bit of a backdrop of why that's gone up.
Jacob, can you answer that? I know that the previous year, before last year, I can do, the input I know is that was a concern from the public, that we had more family entertainment, and that's why they added it, but do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the increase for the family entertainment section specifically is in part cost of everything's going up year over year. Inflation is overall impacting the budget. So some more will be spent. Basically, the cost of services being provided are increasing. But also, in part, that would be to add additional family entertainment to what we are offering through the event. So it's a bit of a combination of the two, but the majority is hoping to add additional family entertainment based on previous feedback.
Okay, just to follow up on that through Mr. Mayor. So will the family entertainment be for 2 days, similar to what it was last year? So it'll be the Monday, Tuesday this year?
I would say yes, but Jacob, I know they had it both days last year. So.
Yes, it would be on both the Monday and the Tuesday.
Okay, all right. That was question one.
Well, you'll get your chance to speak, so don't worry. Okay?
Yeah, then, like, even staff costs doubled this year compared to the previous year. Maybe just an explanation on that? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Jacob.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the reason for increasing staff time that is being dedicated to the event, last year after the event, we observed there was a lot of garbage. Our staff that we did have scheduled for the event had trouble keeping up with the overall flow of cleaning garbage bins, making sure facilities were clean. So just looking to increase that complement in order to make sure we deliver a safe, clean, and fun event for everyone.
Okay, just, all right, because I know it was on the weekend, it's usually overtime, but on the Monday, we'll have regular staff working, but, yeah, I did see an increase of garbage, so if that's addressing, that's fine.
Great question.
The other one that I wanted to ask about was, I know we had a surplus of 88,000, and I know we're using it again this year. Has there been any consideration given to, one of the costs in here are for fencing, of purchasing our own fencing with some of the surplus money, because we're going to be renting fencing constantly. Every time we have an event at that park, fencing is rented. Is there any way that we could purchase our own fencing to reduce that cost over time? First couple of years, you'll be breaking even, but as you move along the time continuum, it will be beneficial to you because you'll be saving costs. I know last year it was almost $1,300 in fencing rental costs. Is that something that staff is looking at? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
I'll turn it over to Jacob or Mark. Is that something we've looked at? I don't know, and myself, but maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Fencing on average kind of rents for about $6 to $9 a panel, and then there's a delivery fee as well and a pickup fee associated with that. In the past, I have looked into the cost of purchasing fencing. It sometimes ranges from around $180 to $200 per fence panel. So that is a ballpark number. Over years, obviously, there would be a benefit to owning fence, but we would also need some equipment to be able to move that around as well, too.
I think we'll leave that with staff, and they can look into.
Yeah, if they could bring that back at budget time, that would be quite helpful to see if there's a cost-benefit analysis done on that. Okay. That's it for now, Mr. Mayor. I have some other ones, but I guess my assurance, I want my clarity. We're just approving the $25,000 right now. We're not approving the $111,000 overall budget for this event. That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Dinavides. I seen a lot of hands up. I'll get to you, so.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, Jason, you did a great job this year. I'm so happy we have an event coordinator. I push this a lot because I understand what it takes to do events. I've been doing them for 37 years with some of the biggest acts in Canada. I was involved in Grape and Wine, Burning Cummings in Pavilion Park and Niagara Lake. I've done events all my life. I'm not tooting my horn, but I'm an expert in this field. And for me, watching you work, you're absorbing everything very well. You're developing your own little black book that I worked years on making, and you're developing contacts. Everything's going in the right direction. So I'm very proud of the work you've been doing, and I'm proud of council for having faith in you and for giving you this opportunity. And I like what Mr. DeAngelo said about fencing. Throughout the years, I used to buy out the fence all the time. My brothers and I, we always buy out the fencing because it's not worth picking it up. We say, take 300, 400 bucks off the bill, I'll keep the fence. So that's one thing you might have to look at. But you're doing a great job, and there's some things we can tweak and work together. But I'm willing, and the committee, and I'm not here to toot my own horn, but I'm willing to help to find cost savings, because this is an event, doing events, it all is on reputation and connections that you have, and I'm willing to share them. And I think everybody in this room is willing to support you to get these events, because they're so important to Thorold. But you're doing a great job. I just want you to know that. And thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Decker, you had your hand down. And then
thank
I'll
you.
go to
Through-
Councillor Longo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Jacob, yes, kudos to you and your partners that you worked with. Fantastic weekend. I just wanted you to clarify, it is going to be a little bit different this year because the Monday falls on a work day, because Canada Day is on a Tuesday this year. So maybe just clarify for everybody that the Monday will only be starting at a later time this year. So it's not going to be the entire day. So there will be some cost savings there, I think. And I'm good to pass your financials the way it is. Maybe this isn't the right time, but I don't want an amendment in the financials right now. Perhaps we can discuss this at one of our meetings, what's going to happen going forward. But I just wanted you to clarify the days that how it's happening this year because of how Canada Day falls.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Councillor Longo, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jacob, great job last year with this event. I know it was your first time running it, but it was truly a success. I do have a question, though. We asked this, I believe, in some of our meetings, and it was about attendance. Is there any way for you to track attendance to these events so we can see how we're doing, not only this one, but the market and other events that the city puts on, just to see how we're tracking year to year with attendance, whether it requires additional funding, things of that nature. So is there a way we could do that with an event like this?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So for Canada Day attendances, we asked our security guards to help track the attendance. For the event, each of our gates, entrances, and exits to the park have security present at them, so we provide them with clickers, which they're able to use to keep track of people coming in and out of the park. For the market, it's a little bit more difficult because there's no specific gates for the park as a facility there. But we do provide basically a crowd count that I kind of take, a couple times a night. I go across, try and keep track of how many people are in the park and get more of a ballpark estimate based on visual counting.
So do you know what our count was last year for the Canada Day celebration?
For Canada Day, it was north of 5,000 people, we estimated.
For the entire festival?
For the event, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Senton, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I'll keep going with the kudos. I've heard best Canada Day ever, fantastic. I know weather permitting, we're always subject to the weather. I'm hesitant to put anything in here that's going to handcuff you. I'm all for savings, but I think we should pass this tonight, and if you want to go to people and talk to them about, maybe cutting their costs or finding different ways, because I know you've told me that you appreciate the local help that you have up there as well. So I would say if we want to find savings when we pass this, go back and talk to the people that we use, the local people, and see what you can do with fencing and with other things. So I don't want to change too much when it was such a success. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jacob, wonderful. I see that you put your heart and soul into everything that you tackle, and I'm so proud of all the work you've done, so keep it rolling along. It's really wonderful to see.
Okay. So what I see here, and just so everybody's clear, if you look at the recommendations, it's to receive the report on the financials, which you asked for. It's to that the dates be approved. So that's going to be this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and that 25,000 be pre-approved. That's all we're doing tonight. Then we leave it with staff to work with the committee. They'll come back at budget, and we can have a further discussion. Is everybody good with that? I just want to be clear what we're actually doing tonight. We're receiving the fine, and I think that's when you can see what they're doing and what Jacob said.
You're saying it's prudent I could hold off on my.
Yes.
Oh, thank you,
that's
Mr. Mayor.
all. Okay, so we're receiving this report. We are saying that we're gonna do the 3 days, the times and that will all, is gonna be less on the Monday, and that we're doing $25,000 advancement, okay? That's what we got a mover and a seconder. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay? Thank you, Jacob. We are going to deal with, next, traffic study at the intersection of Pine Street South and Sullivan Avenue. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor DeRose and Councillor O'Hare. That's up on the screen. And, Mark, you're here to answer any questions? And Sean? Oh, Sean, let's put Sean on the hot seat. Any questions for Sean? Councillor Decker, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Sean, I just wanted to say that I ran into one of the crossing guards that works at that intersection there, and she's been a crossing guard there for over 25 years. And she did ask me if we were doing a study, and I said, yes, I believe we were. Will you speak to the crossing guards at that location? Because she actually had some really great input when I was speaking to her, and I just want to make sure that that gets passed along to you guys, because they're there, they see what's happening. So she said even though those barriers were, not nice to look for, she said it really did help slow the traffic down in that area. So do you speak to the crossing guards? Are you going to speak to the crossing guards that actually work at that location for some of their input as to what they see going on there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, we will talk to everybody and anybody who has an opinion about it.
Great, that's good to hear. I told her that you probably would, but it was really great to hear her comments on what was going on there, so, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare, and then Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Sean. Sean, the cost $100,000, and I agree we need the study here. I know this intersection has been a mess for a long time. Is that the average price of doing a traffic study?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's a estimated price for a safety study at this intersection.
Yeah. So that's a typical cost for doing something like that?
Well, each intersection is specific and individual, and that's just an estimate for that one. We will go and get quotations to make it so that, and then it'll come back to you again with those quotations.
And how long will the traffic study typically take?
2-3 months.
Okay, good. Good. And just as a little aside, I saw the Stay on the Sidewalks signs that you installed. I think they're great. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, Councillor DeAngelo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to highlight a couple items, because I know there's always a lot of misinformation that goes out regarding this, because we're looking at spending $100,000 on here, and on here it talks about the developer, which is McDonald's. The developer agreed to provide a letter of credit of $75,000, which would be used to secure a future contribution towards any upgrades identified in the study. I know there was a comment made that, the developer didn't pay anything, but I think there's an opportunity there to have some money based on the study. Again, just general information, because not everyone sits down and reads the report, so I just want to make sure that's brought to light for the public. And then also, it was brought up that the traffic study is going to be done in, I think it said 3 to 4 months, that was just mentioned. Just curious on that, because staff are recommending here in the report that a traffic and pedestrian safety study be completed based on a 4-season operational analysis. So is it going to be 3 months, or are we looking at more of a year? 4 seasons to me is a year. So just a little clarity on that.
Yep, go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the traffic counts will be over the Four Seasons, but we have some of them already. They will be used to identify some of the information for the consultant.
Okay, that's good to hear, because any way we can expedite this is good. The other, I know ultimately we'll probably end up putting a set of lights there, and it talks in the report here that the reconstruction of Pine Street from Highway 58 to St. David's is in the capital forecast in 2026. So that should be, I know we're not gonna have stoplights here in 2025, but it's scheduled to be, or that intersection's scheduled to have some work done in 2026. Yes, my question on that is, when would that occur? If we get this traffic study done on a timely basis here, is that something we could schedule at the beginning of 2026? Or are we gonna wait to the end of 2026? Because that matters for a lot of people.
Sean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the work that will be done on Pine Street in 2026 will be design work. So the construction probably won't happen till 2027 or beyond.
But is Sullivan Avenue in Claremont this year?
Sullivan Avenue in Claremont is this year, and we could certainly add it to that
That goes
project
to Pine
if that's the intent.
Well, I think the intent of council, because we've banged this around a few times, is to get it done as quickly as possible, those improvements in that intersection. So anything that can expedite this and put it at the top of the list in a reasonable fashion, I think council should and would be agreeable to that, because we've had a lot of chatter regarding this intersection. So however that can be accomplished, I leave that in staff's hands. They're the experts, and we'd like to see this done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ditavitas, I seen you had your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree. It should be done as soon as possible. I just think it's funny how the citizens all know we need a stop sign, stop lights there. Businesses all know we need a stop lights there. Council knows we need a stop lights there. But then we have to spend $100,000 on a consultant to tell us we need a stoplight there. So is this, to me, being business, I think it's kind of crazy, but I'd like to see this speed up as fast as possible. And do we actually have to spend this $100,000?
Go ahead, Sean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we could certainly, if the desire by everybody is to have stoplights there, we could certainly go ahead and order the stoplights.
Because I think most taxpayers watching this, I'm not the only one, think it's crazy. Why don't we just get the stoplights?
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for saying that, Councillor Ditavitas. Through you to the appropriate staff member, did the developer do a study in that area before building the McDonald's? A traffic study?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, they did not.
Okay, I was told that they did, but anyways, I'll take your word for it. There was no traffic study done. And what's the region's role in this? It was brought up in a meeting. Does the region have any role in approving a traffic light at this intersection?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the region, because neither one of those streets are regional roads, the intersection is a City of Thorold road. Traffic control at the intersection is our responsibility. The region is a supplier of ours for traffic signals. So when we decide that we want to put traffic signals in, the region will be contacted to design and construct those traffic signals.
And they look after them after? Do they do
And
the
they maintain
maintenance?
them moving forward we pay them to maintain them moving forward.
Okay, so they have no control whether they're put in, that's the decision of the local municipality?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's only because it's a city road, not a region.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I know the
Okay.
region's name was brought
Okay.
up in discussion before, so I wanted to make sure, because I had a member of the public ask me
Yeah.
what the region's involvement is. I tend to agree with Councillor Ditavitas here. Why on earth would we, I'll ask another question. Would the traffic study give any guidance in how to design an intersection with traffic lights? Or is that what the region would do for us?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the traffic counts will be required for the design. As likely as not, the traffic study that we're going to do here is not going to recommend traffic signals at this intersection. If we're going to put signals in there, the flow, the numbers for the flow will need to be known to ensure any advanced lefts or anything like that for the design. So there will be some design information required, but no, they don't need a traffic safety study to install the lights.
Okay, I may have misheard you, so I'm gonna have you repeat yourself. Did you say the traffic study would most likely say we don't need lights?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Don't have any more questions right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Sentence and then Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I too was under the understanding that the region was in charge of putting lights on these corners, and we had to go through them to get it. So I didn't understand that part of it, so thank you. My question would be, are we putting ourselves at any risk by just saying arbitrarily, no traffic study, throw up the lights and away we go?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, traffic signals are a higher form of safety. They create a safer situation across the board. Certainly, we on a regular basis install higher forms of traffic control. That, like in a lot of our cases, we put stop signs up where stop signs aren't warranted and aren't necessary. So this would be very similar to that.
Okay, so we don't need the region. We're not under any liability. So if we had public information sessions, get everybody's input into this, because I think that would be important, not just to go and do it, but to get opinions on it, we wouldn't have.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Thank you.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just surprised that we would state that amount in public. Wouldn't we tender it first? Isn't that the protocol, is to tender something first, if anybody on staff can answer that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, usually we have a budget before we tender things. And this is what we're doing, trying to get the budget.
I kind of confer with Councilor DeVitis. It's a heck of a lot of money to spend for them to tell you something you can come to a conclusion to yourself, but thank you.
And I just want to make sure anybody that hasn't spoken. Okay, Councillor DeAngelo and then Councillor DeVitis.
Okay. I just want to get clarity for the traffic study that we're doing here. I thought that would entail, and that's where I guess I'm hearing it a little different, that doing the traffic study would go through, have the public meetings, talk to the engineers will work through it. You look at safety concerns in that area, not just specifically that. There's a path in Front Street also that has to be looked at in terms of how that works. So, and then even traffic flow coming out of the McDonald's, how that's going to work. Like, I thought that'd be all in the traffic study, but if we're getting no benefit from the traffic study and spending $100,000, that's what I'm hearing, then let's just move forward and forget about the traffic study and move forward with putting a set of lights in there. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we would certainly be, the traffic safety study would look at the area in total, including the towpath and the Front Street, and how the traffic gets there and how traffic moves through that intersection. All forms of traffic, bicycle, pedestrian, vehicle. And we would do it as a holistic thing to create a solution that is as safe as possible for everybody involved, including the public information centers and so forth that you talked about. So just putting a traffic signal up will be less holistic, if you will, on the approach.
Okay, so, because I know this has bounced around a few times and we keep bringing this forward. I want to make sure that when we're not just putting a set of lights there, like I know that's part of the component, but just putting a set of lights there isn't gonna address some of the other concerns we had about pedestrian movement, advanced lights and all that sort of stuff. So putting lights is not gonna solve the problem that we have in its totality. I don't wanna just jump and not do this, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's sort of like, and I'm gonna use the example, originally, we weren't gonna paint the road, we were actually gonna pour curbs and build out the intersection, but we went with delineated markers as a alternative to see how it would flow before we did a very expensive mechanism. So if we're gonna put a set of lights there and we don't do a proper plan, like, the 100,000 seems like a lot, but again, I'm not fully knowledgeable on how we're projecting this out, but I want, from my perspective, I want a proper plan. I don't wanna be sitting here another year or 2 years down the road and say, oh yeah, we put lights on, but we didn't solve our problem. You know, the crossing guard wasn't really spoken to, other individuals, the school wasn't spoken to, the traffic flow of the buses, like, that all needs to be put together. If staff's gonna do all that and save 100,000, that's great. So I guess my question to you is, is your staff, you and your staff gonna be able to put all that together? If council says no to the 100,000, and then you'll be able to assure us that we have a comprehensive plan in place so that we're not coming back revisiting this? So that's my question. If we don't spend the 100,000, are we assured that we're gonna have a comprehensive plan?
So what you want to know is if we're putting lights in there, can staff make sure that we've looked after everything that we need to in that corner other than lights?
Well, and how the other corners work with it, right? You got Front Street, you got Towpath, you got Albert and Pine, like, you know, you got coming off Highway 58, Sullivan. Like, I want an assurance that we've looked at a proper plan with traffic flows to make sure that's all happening. So we're not just putting up a set of lights because we need to put up a set of lights. It may not make it safer then. So that's my concern.
Do you have anything you can comment on there, or what you think we might need to do to, if we decide that we're putting lights there, what we might need to do to make sure that the plan that we execute is gonna take all those things into consideration?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of the process of putting up the lights, there will be a design done. It will show the intersection. I can certainly run that through the stakeholders, just like we were talking about previously, and then we can certainly bring that back to council for you to review before approving the expenditure.
I just want Manoj to...
Yeah, so let me just put something together here. Whenever you need to put a signal at some place, there's this thing called signal warrant analysis to make sure that you are providing signalized intersection at a place where it is warranted, because there's extensive expenditure in getting signals. You don't want to put it at a frivolous place. The traffic warrant analysis actually take into account traffic volumes from various roadway that is coming to that intersection. That determines that if that traffic volume warrant satisfied, then there is a need for it. There's also traffic signal can be incorporated from a safety point of view. So those are the criteria under which the traffic signals are installed at a location. In this particular case, if we have already predetermined, I think the first thing that we have to do is, if we have traffic volumes on all the four sides of the road that we have, we can very easily run a warrant analysis just to see whether it is justified from a traffic volume perspective or not. Second thing is that we know that we can speak with our internal stakeholders like crossing guards and staff just to see what is the safety concern, whether the safety criteria is required. Once we have established that yes, there is a need for traffic signal, then what we can do is we can work with the region. They can design the intersection for traffic signal where the heads are going to go and all that kind of stuff. And typically, my understanding, the traffic signal will cost about $250,000 to $300,000. That's the number that we are dealing with. But before going for an extensive study, if council wishes are that let's do a preliminary investigation ourselves from a safety and traffic warrant analysis, we can do that. And then if we determine that yes, traffic signal can solve the problem, then we can work with the region to get a traffic signal in there.
So, Mr. Mayor, then I'll ask our question to the CAO. at this point in time, we don't need to spend that 100,000. Let's just move forward with a signalization plan, and make sure we encompass all the, safety features that we can put to make it as safe as possible. So that's what you're saying. Okay. So you made my decision easy. I'm not gonna support the 100,000. Thank you.
Right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we all know safety's first, it's happening, but we all know the volume's coming. It's gonna get busier and busier. It's not gonna get less busier. Thorold's growing, businesses are opening downtown. So no matter what a traffic study would say, and not that we're doing it, the volume is coming. So you can do a traffic study today, and then 2 years, the volume will be increasing. So I'm glad we're turning this down and saving the taxpayers 100,000.
Okay, is there anyone else regarding this report? So if you don't want this traffic study, you turn down this report, then we refer this to staff to do what Manoj and Sean have said. Does everybody understand where we're heading here? Go ahead, Counselor.
Just timing-wise, when are we looking at, we're waiting for the traffic volumes to come back, like the 3 months, and then staff will bring a report back?
Sean, if we go this route and turn this down and do what you and Manoj said, what kind of timeline to come back?
Through you, Mr. Al, I'll have to reach out to the region, and I can certainly get that information to you as quickly as possible.
Can you get that information and we can send it out through the clerk to the council prior to our next meeting? That'd be great. Okay. Okay, so the report's on the floor at a mover and a seconder. Is it up there?
So, to be clear, we're voting on it as it is now, we're not doing an amendment?
No. Okay. Right, yeah. We'll come back to that. Let's just deal with this, okay? We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Are you for or against, Councillor Hanley?
I'm against the recommendation for the
Okay,
100,000.
thank you. So, and we had for or opposed, and it was
I think it was all opposed.
all opposed. That's correct. Okay, go ahead now.
I was gonna make a motion that we refer this to staff to come back as quickly as possible to give us an update of what's happening here so that council can make a decision going forward.
Okay. You're gonna move that. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Councillor DeRose? That we're referring this back to staff to encompass what was discussed, okay? What Sean said and what Manoj said, and to encompass that, and you'll deal and get an answer for us on a timeline, correct, Sean? Okay? You got that?
Do you want me to put it up on the screen, or I've got it?
Okay, you got it. Is everybody good with that? Do you want it up on the screen, or we're good
No,
with?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor, since I'm moving it. It's basically referring it to staff to
Yeah,
come back.
exactly.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, I had a seconder, Councillor DeRose. Okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Good discussion. Notices of motion, I know there's a couple there. I've got Councillor O'Hare, you're going to bring one on sponsorship naming rights policy, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you're going to bring one, Councillor Sentence, then I'll get you, you're going to work with the clerk on what?
I'm going to work with the clerk on restoring the civic recognition event for next year.
Okay, and Councillor Longo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to bring a motion to have council consider changes to our procedural bylaw as it relates to city council meetings and the use of remote access technology.
Okay, so those three things will be working with the clerk and brought to the next meeting, okay? There's no statement by councillors, so now we're going to move into closed session. Before I ask for a mover and a seconder to go into closed session, I would like to remind you of your obligations respecting closed sessions. Those who are participating electronically in the closed session must ensure that no person is in the location from which they are taking part in the meeting or make appropriate arrangements so that any other persons cannot see or hear any of the confidential deliberations taking place. If this is not possible, you must withdraw from the meeting until it has reconvened in open session. So, well, can you get that up? Why we're going into closed session? Can I get a mover and a seconder for this? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor Longo. That we now move into closed session to receive confidential information respecting a matter respecting educational or training sessions wherein no council business or decision shall be materially advanced under Section 239(3)(1) of the Municipal Act 2001 Community Risk Assessment. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Councillor Hanley.